My name is Matt Dozier. I'm the President and Chief Executive for the East Initiative. And up until last year, that meant that I was in charge of overseeing the efforts that the nonprofit does in relation to the East programs. East has a 16-year history of implementing very, very successful STEM-based, project-based, student-based programs in schools across the state and even across the country. But last year we added something to that. We added something called East Core. What we were asked to do by the Governor's Workforce Cabinet and the Department of Education was take what we had learned over the years with East and see if we could take those best practices and put it into some curricular classes, particularly in math and science, and see if we could help those classes be not only better prepared for the Common Core, but to be better prepared. Because we know that East students, I've got research that proves this, but we know that East students are better prepared to go to college. We know that East students are better prepared to succeed after college. We know that East students actually get better test scores. We figured that one out the hard way. And the question that was put to us is, if you can take what they're doing in one class a day and move it out into those curricular classes of math and science, how much better would their day be? How much more could they learn? And particularly, how much better prepared can they be to succeed post-secondary and into their work life? And we took that challenge on head on. And I'm really excited that you guys are here today, because the last time we went through this recruitment period, I had nothing to show anybody. We were making it up as we went along, because they asked us in July of last year, and we had a recruiting meeting in August, and we had some ideas. Monday, 5 very brave pioneer schools started the very first East Core program. Today, we're here to talk about how to be in the next wave of East Core programs. If you're here to talk about East, we can certainly do that in a little bit, because I would love to do that. That's kind of my go-to speech. You can pull the chain on the back of my head and I can talk East all day. But we really want to focus on East Core, this new thing. It's part of the STEMWorks initiative. The East grants are actually not part of the STEMWorks grants. So we're here today to share with you East Core and what we are doing, and then obviously questions, concerns, answers, criticisms and critiques. Mr. Boardman's here. You can launch all of your criticisms about research money or technology money to him.
We are so excited today, and I've really been looking forward to this for quite a while, to share with you our progress, what we're doing, and our plans. On the screen you can see a chart that shows a map of our 5 pioneer schools that will be implementing East Core this year, which are Prairie Grove, Morrilton High School, Harrisburg, Hot Springs, and Star City. These schools are absolutely just full of excitement to get ready to do this great thing that we've worked with them over the past year to prepare them to do with their students. And we've talked to them all on the phone, and they're just really, really ready to go. The smaller dots that you see across the state, that's not a design pattern. Those are all of the East programs. And you can see that we are really covering a great range of areas throughout our state. And one of the beautiful things about the way that we are designing East Core is that it works with East. East is a supporting structure. And so if you have an East program already in existence in your school, you already have something there that is developing a culture that people can understand and relate to, that your community has seen some of the work of. So that's a great start for those of you that are interested in East Core. For those of you that may be interested in the East program, you can kind of get an idea of where we are across the state. Now, we're not showing the other states where we have East because we're just talking about East Core today, but you could certainly go to our website and see where we have our other programs in different states. Of course, East originated in Arkansas, and so East Core is a part of a homegrown effort. It's part of our history here in Arkansas. We've been around for 16 years. That's quite a while. And so when you are working with an East program or an East Core program, you are reinvesting in your state from something that was born and grown within our state. And that is a source of great pride for us. one of the things that people ask when they ask, well, what do we do with the East Core? How do we do this? How do we go about it? What is necessary for us to decide whether or not we're able to do this? What has to be there? Your support structure is already there if you have an East program at the high school. You've got a support program there. And we're not asking you to make a huge change in your district or a huge change to your high school to implement. It has to do with a philosophy of how you work with kids, change the way you think about your teaching, and to provide really rich technological resources to your students and have training for your faculty, and then you implement. So you really don't have to do an enormous change within your school. Some schools prefer to have smaller steps along the way and to allow their culture to change organically, a little bit more slowly, and that's one of our strengths. We also have amazing support along the way. Melissa and I, in just in a couple of weeks, will start going out to these schools and working one-on-one with these teachers and helping provide support to them on site. And so we are committed absolutely to every school being successful with this program. Right now we have articulated grades 3 through 16 for East. And that's another thing that we're really excited about and proud about, because we've got students that are growing up with the idea that they can be the owner of their own learning, that they need to put back into their community, that communication is an important skill to have, and that learning can be fun. Whatever you're doing and whatever you're learning about can be a lot of fun. So we are articulated all the way across, and this is another strength if you're considering to implement an East Core program. That that's something you can think about. Maybe if you have a high school East program, you might think about, well, we could go to middle school. East Core is already being asked to consider working on a program for middle school, and so that's something we'll be looking to in the future. We have been working with students in 21st century skills since 1995. For some of you, that's a new thing that you're hearing. You're seeing a lot of books being published about it. You hear about it at conferences. We've been doing it for a while. We're pretty good at it. We have some great success stories of students that have graduated from high school and gone on to do amazing things out in the world. And so these are successful practices that we have worked through since 1995. So we've taken those best practices that we know are successful because we've seen the results. We know the graduates. We've seen their companies. We've watched them excel and take on leadership positions. And so we have proven results from these graduates. And we've ported those best practices into the core areas. So what is East Core? What is it about? What do we do in those classes? Well, it's absolutely authentic. Everything these students will be doing will be authentic. That certainly creates more connection for the student to what they're studying, creates meaning, purpose. We hope to never hear one of our students ever say again that phrase that you've heard before, why do we have to learn this? Why do we have to know this? I'll never use this. We want to erase those statements. They're going to know why they're doing this, what's important about this, and why it relates to them, because it's authentic and it's relevant. Relevant to their communities very often, where they're working on problems that will use data from their local areas or their region or their state. So everything is connected and referenced to the student and why that's important to them, relevant and authentic. Very student focused. The teacher is no longer the focus of the classroom. The student's interests, variations in the way to approach a problem, choices, input, communication, these things are now at the forefront. Very collaborative. We have some wonderful entities that are working with us that are also going to be working with our teachers, and we're encouraging those community relationships where, depending on the location of the school, they have rich resources right there in their own backyards, and we're going to be helping them to make those connections and working on solving problems within their areas, looking at questions that they might not have ever known to ask about where do I live, what's here, what can we study about this area, what could we possibly do in our area that will make it better, stronger. There's so many different things there. I can get really excited and go on forever. Technology rich. Using industry standard software. We don't want to have students having tech experiences with school-based technology. If you've ever seen a package that someone has put together where the students are going to study the school-based program or something that has been modified for student use. We're not going to do that. Because what are we preparing the students for? If we're going to prepare those students to go out and work in the fields of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, then we want them to use the tools that the professionals are using, or variations of those tools. And so that's what we're going to provide them experiences with. And we have project modules that are absolutely outstanding that are built with that in mind, where every time those students have those experiences, they're going to be using things that the professionals use, in ways that the professionals use them. Nothing is dumbed down, nothing is converted for some student purpose. It's the real thing. And that's one of the strengths of ACE as well. That's one of our best practices that we reported out. Differentiated, absolutely. It has to be, just by nature. So not every student is doing everything at the same time, the same way, which is worked into our professional development. That we have been working with teachers that are very traditional because they're content specialists. That's what they know, that's what they're good at. And we need them to be those good, strong content specialists. But also, we're teaching them to also learn a new way of approaching their content area with students. And that's very exciting. It's flexible. Not every single school that we're working with is doing this the same way. It's not a package that drops down and unfurls. It's customized. We have given each of our school districts many different choices in how they decide by their culture, their interests, things that are specific to their community, what are their needs? And we work with them on that. And that also is a lot of fun because you have superintendents from one school and another school that can talk about how they're doing things differently, but still going for that same goal of improving services to students. Melissa and I worked on this where we were saying, okay, well, how can we visually represent what we're doing? How do we show that? Melissa, do you want to share a little bit about this with me?
What EAST stands for student-centered, authentic technology and collaboration, and that's what we've been doing for 16 years. And with what's coming down the pike and what's being adopted, it fits hand in hand. And so what we're asking teachers to do is not lecture and then hope to be able to get to a project at the end of the chapter. We want that project to be forefront, the kiddos right in the mix of their learning, and they're going to attack the curriculum and be able to apply it on a regular basis. And so it's a beautiful fit, and Dr. Kimbrell noticed that, and that's why he approached us last year to take this on. Do y'all have questions so far? Okay.
You'll see here things that you're familiar with, that you've seen before. Common Core, of course. Next Generation Science Standards, which you know are in one of many stages of drafts. But each time one of those drafts come out, we take a look at what they have shown us, what they're changing with it, their adaptations, modifications, and we take that into consideration as we have our project modules evolve and our work evolve. ISTE-NETs, I think most of you are familiar with this. These are tech standards for administrators, teachers, students. We're really focusing on these standards for students and teachers, and they are built into the work that we're doing with the schools. And then, of course, the Arkansas frameworks, which we are still accountable to. The teachers still need to make sure that they meet those requirements, and we're also supporting them with that. And so when we have a project module that the teacher is going to use with her students, every one of those at this time is referenced to these 4 things. And even in some cases, for science, it's referenced to Common Core. Even though Common Core isn't science, we're talking about levels of technical reading and writing, increasing the lexile levels of the reading material for these students being able to communicate using the content area language effectively. And so we're also taking that into consideration. We have some really, really wonderful English teachers who are not pioneering this class that have been coming to our sessions and supporting their faculty within their own schools, supporting their STEM faculty, because they want to be a part of this too. And so they're starting to design ways that they can work with the STEM teachers in English in a collaborative way. What can we do in English so that we support your work and you can also support our work? And that has taken place without really our request. We have just said, bringing to the table those that want to be a part of this outside of the STEM teachers. If anyone else in your district really feels passionate about this change, bring them. We want to work with them. We're not writing project modules for English right now. We're not working with that at this time, but absolutely you can come to the table. We would love to see you collaborate with your biology teacher, your chemistry teachers, and do some very interesting things. So absolutely we'll encourage them to be a part of this. So we've had special ed teachers, we've had literacy coaches, English teachers, we've had, what else?
Other sciences.
Other sciences that are not implementing but want to be aware of what's going on and also help support these efforts. And so that's been really neat. East Core at the middle, and then parts of East Core where we're taking these best practices from East, where we have a tech focus. We want this tech to be transparent. We're not focusing on the fact that we're using technology or that we're using this particular software program or this cool tool. That should be transparent. It's not the thing, it's what are you doing with it? What's useful? Why? What purpose does that serve? And so that part is not a focus of any of our training. The tech part is not, and we're not listing every single software program that we're using as a means, this is the list of the great stuff we're doing. It's what are we doing with it? What are you doing with it? And we're going to show you that in just a minute. Collaborative, highly collaborative with multiple different groups, agencies, entities. We have our pioneer schools already collaborating in ways that we never would have imagined. Two of them are completely as far apart across the state as they could be, are just like twins. They communicate all of the time, and it started from basketball, where the administrators would go to basketball games together, and then they ended up kind of sitting and talking with each other, and the next thing you know, they both kind of have the same idea about change for their school, and their teachers now are cross-collaborating between these districts. They're all the way across the state with East Core, and that's pretty powerful. And it's authentic. We said that. It's real. And student-centered always. So when we took a look at what were we going to do with these students in this classroom, some of you are familiar with East. You know, the student gets to come in and decide what's important here, what do I want to explore, what are the needs in my community, what can we do to make this area better. In this case, we have curriculum that has to be provided to students. We have to meet these frameworks, so we have to work with that too. We have a long history with project-based learning in East, and it's not that big of a stretch in science, of course, to take those ideas of project-based learning and make science much, much more interesting. There's so many things that you can do with science with project-based learning. Actually, you can do that also with math. We've had some very cool project modules that deal with some dynamic things with math that kids are just going to go crazy about. It'll be like some of the East classrooms where you're like, leave, it's the school's closing, you've got to get out, go home. You can come back tomorrow. We have authentic teaching and learning. It's tied to post-secondary education and career opportunities. You'll see in our project series, we always tie it in. What are the careers that are out there for you to pursue if you just really had a spark within you for what we've done with this particular project that we just implemented? Because kids aren't automatically going to know that they could go study some really cool area of geophysics just because they did an activity in a classroom. We're helping them connect that. And then we're also helping them connect to the post-secondary institutions in the state of Arkansas where they could explore that. So they can start planning when they start these projects. Well, hey, that's cool. Well, I didn't know I could study that right here in Arkansas. And so once again, the efforts that we're putting into core, we're also reinvesting in our state. Human capital. We're investing in our children, our students, to come back and do great things in our state. We have certainly integrated Common Core state standards, next generation frameworks, ISTE-NETs, so that they are improving those tech skills. And we're doing that this year with biology and geometry. Next year, chemistry and algebra, and then we are adding in physics and calculus, and after that, the sky's the limit. Melissa, do you need to add?
It just brings it home. It's working on things that are in their community or things that this common curricular area, but how does that affect me? Why do I have to learn this? And it really brings it home to them. Here's an example of one of the projects that we have. Instead of, studying your own watershed, why is that important? What goes into the planning and the sustainability of that? And so what we did was we outlined everything that it potentially could address. We're leaving that open for the teachers to expand on that and to collaborate with that. We're building a portal for them to be able to share. It's no longer all about me, it's sharing for the common good of all of our students. And so what worked for you and what didn't, and there's a place that they can all get together for that. Lots and lots of resources all within this. The expansion of what career fields are in here. We've worked with CAST on this. We're working with iTunes U. Every one of them are different. You can tap into a child that wants to go a little bit further and take it a little further, or a team of students that want to investigate, or they see a problem and they want to move forward with that. That's why it's so imperative that you have a strong EAST program. When it's time to move on in the core curricular areas, they can't stay on this even though a child is very passionate about it. We don't want to squash that because we've got to move on to the next thing. If they find a problem or they're so interested in this, that's where the regular EAST classes come into play, that they can take that project to a new level. Matt?
A couple of things I want to point out here. First off, these are very authentic. I know Donnie said that like 100 times. But in every one of the biology classes, when they talk about the rain cycle or the watershed or the ecosystem or whatever, our projects focus on yours. Not on thee, but yours. The other thing that is very important here is that something that we've kind of, I've not seen a lot of people do, and I know that we haven't, it's been a bear to put together, but we have a series of projects that interconnect. This project leads to another project, leads to another project, leads to another project, and it can take the students throughout the curriculum in a building block or in a layered concept, so that what starts out as what's at our back door in the pond goes all year long, from one project to another project. They get more sophisticated as they go. They follow the curriculum. And what's really interesting about the project modules is that they're not sequence 1, 2, 3. They can move around depending upon how your teachers teach. Because it turns out you don't all use the same textbook. Did you know that?
I've heard.
Okay. And some teachers spend more time in some areas than others because some kids need more time in some areas than others. And so the way that we have built these projects this year in biology and geometry is in a very unique, but certainly very dynamic model that allows these projects to really drive the learning. Okay? And as Melissa said, what the really awesome thing about that is, if you're already working in your watershed, and the kids decide we need to go do something about this. You know, there's too much nitrogen getting into the watershed, or we need to do a bird count. There's a place to take that when you get done with the quiz for chapter 4 and you have to move to chapter 5. And that's one of the things we're really, really, really proud of.
Dondi alluded to that your teachers are the content specialists, and we're not taking that away from them, and we're not demanding of them specific things. We're working with them to change the way that they're teaching.
You have a question?
Yes, I do, and I've noticed that you've got biology. Is this just a list, or are these classes being paired
this year?
There's a school.
In their project.
Actually, there's a school that if the student is required to take biology, then they are put into geometry at the same time. So they're going to have a dual opportunity to learn in this fashion. And there are some of these
It's
projects.
not necessarily projects that are related.
We do show cross-curricular connection.
They made the
Work off
connection.
of each other.
We do show cross-curricular connection.
But they weren't built that way. But they complement each other, and the teachers have gotten, I'm sorry, I'm getting excited, but they've gotten excited to be able to work together and be able to maximize their time with these kiddos, right? And co-teach, something that is foreign to teachers, because I have my space and I've got my objectives and so much is placed upon me. Now, what if we work together? And so they're exploring these options, and it's wonderful.
But it's not a requirement. We picked these courses, and in this course sequence, we have biology and geometry piloted, and we're going to continue to build on it. This year, we're building Algebra 2 and chemistry. Next year, physics and Cal are coming online. The reason that we picked those that way is that's an articulation pattern that is most common for students. So that the ones that start this year in biology, they've got chemistry to go to next year. They've got physics to go to the year after that. It's kind of the back end planning on it. But no, they don't have to be paired up together, because biology is a course with a whole lot of frameworks and a whole lot of outcomes, and they still have to take a test at the end of the year. And we want to enhance that. We don't want to add more stress and pressure to your teachers that now they're having to teach history and biology all in one room. They can if they want, but they don't have to.
The other beauty of this is, although we've written project series and we've worked with the universities on these, the ultimate goal is to empower teachers to do this on their own. With us as a support constantly, with us as providing resources. We want to have that open dialogue like we do with our East facilitators, to where if they need a little additional help or support, we're there to help them. But we definitely want to empower them to do this on their own. We felt that we needed to at least show them, guide them in a way to get going. And they've already started. We've got plenty of teachers thinking through how they can enhance what they've already done, because a lot of their labs work, we're just helping them get it to another level. Dondi?
We have really seen some exciting things happen too, where during our professional development, and each day that we did our first professional development, we would get feedback from the teachers and we would make adjustments based on their feedback. But we had some things where we had a schedule that was planned, and they would get so excited once they found out how this could work, that we had to change on the fly some of our plans, because we didn't want to stop what was happening with the teachers. It was so good. We do have some of these projects that if the teachers in biology and geometry wanted to work together simultaneously, that there's a beautiful fit between many of these projects where they're discussing the same type of project but from two different viewpoints. One is from the biology viewpoint, the other is from the geometry. Not every single project is done that way. Many of them have parallels and cross curricular components that you can see there, and definitely we can add that in development. We also have in our portal a place where if we have just a really exemplary teacher that has a lot of energy and some great ideas, and they take a look at this and they say, you know, I can make that even better, and this is how. We're giving them that opportunity. We're going to empower them to do that and share it with all of their peers, so that they can also see that version of what they've done, and they can share how it was successful. You know, what did you do and how that worked really well. So that's another part of our communication. It's not just communication between the teacher and the student, or the student and the community. The communication is also happening between the teachers in the different school districts. It's kind of cool that you have these different teachers from all of these different school districts that are collaborating, working together already, just as if they were a professional learning community within their own building. But they're all across the state. And we have a communication center built in our portal where they can do that. And they can participate in webinars with us. And we can provide some support through that too. And webinars and information from some of our partners, like the Center for Advanced Special Technologies.
We plan to be on the ground in your schools regularly, meaning monthly. We want to push and pull teachers and administration through this process. We're going to learn together. There's things that we anticipate happening. There's things that we can't even dream of because it's not a package. It's more authentic. It's organic. So what we've developed is Tier 1 and 2. Those two are for the educators participating in this. They come through a 3 and 5 day training. Tier 3 is what we're calling our on-site. That's where we're going to continually provide professional development. And we're going to work with you as to when that is. We've got a school that has teaming already and they meet on a specific day every week. Well, that's a perfect time for us to reach out to that department. There's other schools that will be only in their classes and then we'll meet with them after school. Whatever it takes to meet with your teachers, that's what we'll do. And then Tier 4 is where we're going to empower teachers who have really embraced this idea and have mastered it to go on to help others learn more about it. We also do an administrative tier. What does this look like? How do I support my teachers? How do I work with my local community on understanding why this is so different? Because the kiddos are going to have to think for themselves, and the answer's not at the back of the book, or the teacher's not going to give it to me, and there's going to be some challenges there. And then we're constantly reevaluating what we do. We always ask for input, and we always debrief together as a team to find out how we could do this better next time. On-site support is going to be our tier training, and we have worked with what we will do is work with your East facilitator in the East classroom, and how do they support the East Core? And how can East Core depend on your local East program? And so at Summer Seminar, we met with those facilitators, and we discussed that with them. And talking about Summer Seminar, we also want to open that door for your teachers to come back on an annual basis all together, and we will provide just-in-time professional development, new trends, new technologies, how things are changing. We want to constantly be in contact with them. And the East Conference, that is something, who's attended the East Conference before? Few folks, okay. Y'all have been? It's an awesome opportunity for celebration, to share with the world what you are doing at your school. And
What's the attendance on that?
2,000 students from across the nation come together annually. And we're going to have a place for East Core there. And what does the future bring for East Core as far as its own conference, or is it always combined? I don't know. As we grow, we'll find out. It was a conversation we just had. So,
And also, we're very fortunate at our East Conference. This always makes me really excited when I see the big banner that hangs from the ceiling that shows who our supporters are, who are the organizations that fund us, who are those that believe in what we're doing. And there are some really cool company names, organization names, ETU names on that banner, and that always excites me because it lets us know that we have national, international, and state people that believe in what we're doing too. So as an LEA, as a school, what are the requirements for you to have an East Core program in your district, in your high school? One thing that we're asking, for reasons that have already been stated, is that you have an established East program in your high school. We think that this is very important for several reasons. One is because the East program students, facilitator, will support the work of East Core, mentor, provide resources for assistance, troubleshooting, maybe demonstrations, perhaps even do collaborative projects together. there are a lot of opportunities there. And another is that once you get a kid going on something that they're very excited about, you want to make sure that that student has an opportunity to continue doing what they're interested in. You don't want to lose that. You want to accelerate that kid so that that kid is able to continue to study and move forward in what they are passionate about, and they can do that in East because they have time. They have freedom in East. So that's just a built-in asset in your school. You must have strong administrative vision and support in your school district. It has to be there. You have to have administrators that are determined that change is necessary. We can do it. We support it. We know that it may not be smooth along the way. We know that we're going to be in a learning process as a school, and myself as a professional, and we're committed to this, and we all stand behind this process. And so you must have that vision and that support. We're not telling you what the vision needs to be for your school district. That's why, one of the reasons why we customize based on what's the culture of your school, what are the needs, what's the vision for your particular school. So you establish that locally. But you have to have that really strong vision, and everyone needs to understand what it is. Your teachers need to know what that vision is. Your teachers need to understand that they are backed, that they are supported in this effort. And so, you've got to have that buy-in and commitment from your faculty. And it should not be one of those things where it's the passive compliance where they say, well, okay, I sure do like to be employed. Absolutely, this is the greatest thing I ever heard of. It needs to be an internal motivation that they know that this is going to be something dynamic and powerful for their students. It's going to be exhilarating and energizing to them as a professional. And they're also committed to this process, and they're going to understand this may not always be really easy. We're going to learn, there are going to be challenges, but I know that my administration's behind me. I believe in this. I know I can be successful, and I'm committed to this process as well. And so your team really has to feel that. We're asking a lot of you, yes, but we want you to be successful. And that's not going to be possible if you have some, well, I'm not sure, well, maybe. We want you to really feel confident, because we're confident. But we can't be unless you are too. So we need to also make sure that the district has financial stability. That's just sort of a given. And that you have appropriate bandwidth capabilities. Last year we knew exactly what that looked like. This year we will have more information about that a little bit closer to the time that we receive applications and we start taking a look at where we are in the state, who's got what. But you have to be able to carry connections. You have to be able to support technology.
It's their textbook. And if they don't have access to it, it slows down the educational process. So it's vital.
That really hasn't been an issue with any of our schools so far. I think it was more electricity in some places than it is bandwidth. But absolutely, that's really important. And then our implementation timeline. You will see that on the handout. If you haven't received a handout, we've got plenty of them. We can chill on right after we conclude. And you'll see that there are two paths that are possible for East Core. One is the option to apply for the STEMWorks grant. There are only a few of those to go out this year. And we have many people that were interested from last year, and we continue to get phone calls of interest. But we have very few. And we wish we had buckets full of them to do that. That would be an ideal situation, but we don't. But you can go through the STEMWorks grant process, and that outlines your process there in the timeline. Another is direct implementation. If your district feels strongly and would like to opt to just implement immediately, then you could also do that as well, and we have a timeline for that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's talk turkey. The first thing you need to do if you're going for the grant is you need to get that letter of intent in, because we are only allowed to work with schools in the grant process that we get the list from the STEMWorks group and the workforce cabinet, okay? So if this is something you're interested in, that's the very first thing to get done, because they're going to send us a list of officially certified people that that wanted to explore this as part of the grant process. That's just a fairness thing, okay? once that happens, that will trigger us to send an application to you. Okay? It's an application. It asks all kinds of questions and all kinds of things, and it helps us to better understand some of those things about your school and your district that you can't always see when you walk in the door. But once we get those back, then we will begin to come to you. Because I'm going to tell you, if you just pick based on who filled out the best paperwork, you pick poorly very often. Anybody have any experience with that? Okay? We're going to come to you, and we're going to meet with your team. We need to see administration. We need to see faculty, whether that's whether that's department heads or teachers in the core areas, whether that's allied department heads, other teachers. Bring the softball coach. As long as we get to work with the team that will implement this and be responsible for taking care of it, technology people. Okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to visit with them. We're going to look at the school. We're going to ask some questions. We need to get a very good sense of the things that you can't find out on a piece of paper. Okay, when we get done with that, then we're going to have to go back and take the very hard task of figuring out who to recommend and who not to recommend and what recommendations to send to the governor's workforce cabinet. Okay? They're going to announce in January who gets funded and who doesn't. Our understanding at this time is that 5 grants are available. Okay? Last year we had 17 schools applying for those 5 positions. And 12 of them got told no. And 5 of them got told yes. And some of those 12 are not in this room right now, so you got competition. Okay? Some of you may not want to do this, so it's okay. But we have 5 grants to give out. Those grants are roughly $100,000, and they will take care of the technology and a portion of the professional development. What we ask of the schools then is that after they are announced as grant recipients, we will then fill out a lot of paperwork. We start working with you probably the day after that these get announced, okay, as far as preparatory work, making sure that space, logistics, planning, all of those things are going on. We're going to put people on the ground. There's going to be communication, and probably more than you're used to when you get a grant, okay? Because we're doing a pretty big thing here, okay? The school is committing to $25,000 in this time frame, this school year. Okay, the school is committing to $25,000 there, $50,000 for the next 3 school years beyond that.
Each year.
Each year. The school is committing to $175,000 over 4 years. Every one of those dollars is professional development money. None of those dollars are technology dollars. Okay? It's our understanding that that opens up a lot more avenues for our schools to be able to afford to do this. Okay?
Do you mind just $50,000 over the next 3 years? What did you say?
I said $50,000 each year after those 3 years. So this is the 12-13 school year, 25 grand. 13-14, 50. 14-15, 50. 15-16, 50. Was I able to add all those years right?
Good job.
Okay. After that, I don't know yet. Okay, because we don't know if we're going to continue to add courses and offer those to the schools. We don't know if we're going to have to charge to train new teachers. We don't know if we're going to be able to follow the model that we followed with East and find state level support for ongoing support and maintenance. I don't know, but don't worry about that today. If we can get to 15-16, then we've got time to figure all that out, okay? And if we only get to 15-16, we have developed and put capacity in your schools for these 6 courses that will articulate up and allow enormous opportunities for your students. Okay.
Is that PD for all teachers in the building, that money that's set aside, or is that
Those
for the-
participating in the program. But we also need support staff, and we need those that are going to take this on, yes. So we do have a school that an English teacher was not going to take no for an answer, was at the superintendent's door and the principal's door, and he says, I want to do this. This is exciting. I've got to be a part of this. He was at our door saying, I've got to be a part of this. And we said, why would we squash that? So we allowed him to come through. And so he is working with his teacher. So we trained him at no additional cost. So that kind of thing, but your entire staff, we'd have to talk.
Yeah. But this year we have 32 core teachers among the 5 schools, and we train 60, how many this summer? 64 people this summer. And we'll work with you on determining who that team is, because not everybody needs to spend 8 days with us in the late spring and early summer. But some people do. We let facilitators come through, we let technology people come through. Our objective is to work with your school and make this successful.
We also make sure that this is one of our requirements, if you have a special ed teacher that provides services within the classroom to the sciences or math, they have to come as well. They are automatically a part of your team, because we want them to be able to support their students, their special ed students, and understand a little bit more about this model and how it is a powerful model for their students. Because when you have students that may academically have some problems that they're receiving some assistance with, some of those kids will do the most beautifully edited video you have ever seen. They have such a strong talent in that area, or something else that you might not have known about before. So that is a requirement. So special ed is definitely included as a big part of this as well.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, the $25,000, like this year, we have to put that in there and have it set aside before we even send off the letter of intent?
No, ma'am.
Okay, this is just only if we get the grant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's part of the on-site discussion and tour. I mean, we're not going to ask you to commit to something when we can't commit to you. Okay. If you don't get the grant, or if you don't go through the grant process, if you say, I want this and I want it now, Matt, it's $275,000, and it follows the same basic time frame. Okay. And we'll be happy to talk to you right after this session, if that's an avenue you want to go down.
Up front, first year, 275.
No, ma'am. That would be over 4 years. We'll take it all up front. We cash all those checks any way they come.
Is it a requirement that you have an East Lab operating currently?
Yes.
Before
Yes,
you
sir.
can apply?
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the next thing I want to talk about. If you're here and you love what you get, what you've heard, but you don't have an East program, let's talk, because that's step one. And actually, we think there are going to be more grants for East programs this year than core grants. We have a directive from our board of directors. We have a desire from the state. We have a personal desire to expand East much more extensively than it is right now, because we believe that this is the path we need to be taking. Grow East core, and then see what people are saying about education in Arkansas. And because of that, we're hoping to expand East far beyond what we are now. So right now we're in a little over 200 schools in the state. Okay?
On the schools that are pioneering this year, like in geometry, are they all their teachers
Yes, sir.
doing all
Yes,
the
sir.
geometry? And I guess that's a requirement too. I mean, I think that would be good. Does that affect the class size with some of the requirements? That you
No,
have?
sir. As a matter of fact, that's when we talk about what was the line you used. There's no additional. We're not asking that you change your school building. We're not asking that you change your master schedule. We're not asking that you.
You're not limiting the class size.
No, sir. It's geometry becomes core geometry. That's the only. Well, I mean, there's a major difference there, but that's all that happens. We're not asking that you pair biology and geometry at the same time, because we understand the complexities of having to lay out a schedule and scheduling your children.
We haven't put a restriction on we haven't capped the number of students as of yet. We need to see what this looks like. all the students are not necessarily going to be working on individual projects all the time like they do in the East classroom, which is why we have the cap. They're going to be doing a lot more group work and going through a little bit more together, so we don't know what that cap looks like.
But it would still follow state requirements.
Oh,
Absolutely.
state requirements, of course.
Absolutely.
But we'll see how that plays out this year.
We have had some administrators who have made changes because they wanted to, that it was a local decision. And that's, you know, local decisions and some of these things actually are pretty cool because we get to see, all right, that's your take on it and that's what you would like to explore, and sure, we support that. And so if you wanted to have a way that you organize that, you could.
What other questions?
Well, if I'm understanding this correctly, then if we thought about doing this in biology, we're talking about all of our biology
Yes, ma'am.
teachers and the special ed teachers that
Yes,
will
ma'am.
be involved.
And geometry.
Biology and geometry
Yes, ma'am.
the same year?
Yes, ma'am.
And so next year,
Algebra 2 and chemistry?
and we're adding that, that's what we're committing.
Yes, ma'am.
And then chemistry,
Or physics and cal.
physics and calc.
We've almost got that all
Oh,
memorized.
I thought you already, that this year it was biology.
Yes, ma'am. We have it
Ah.
online.
Algebra.
We have it online right
It's-
now, and
it's
we're
there
developing the next
This
two.
year.
Right.
So if we come in
Uh-huh.
next year.
Yes, ma'am.
We're committing to 6.
You could be,
You
or
could be.
4, because we'll have 4 ready to go. Because biology and geometry is this year.
Oh, okay.
And
I
we're
mean, you're
working
ahead.
on, yes.
I'm sorry.
So,
Okay.
but those schools that want to go a little slower and just do biology and geometry first,
Oh.
could we allow that? This is where it's up to you, right? We're not going to force on you 4 subjects the first year. We have it available. Do you want to do it? Go for it. Or do you need, because of your staff, need to go a little slower? So that's a local decision. But yeah, we've been looking at that both ways too. What do you do? And so we want to have those conversations with you.
Well, what we can tell you right now is we do have these 2 courses not only developed but deployed. We're working on the next 2 and then the next 2. Those pioneer schools are going through a 3-year process. We expect that will be very successful in a model that other schools will want to emulate, but we are not 100% certain that other schools won't want to move further faster.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So if you already have East,
Yes, sir.
is it too late this year to become involved with this project?
For the 12-13 school year? Yes, sir.
So we have to wait till next year?
Yes, sir.
But you start training in the spring. We start at those conversations, so it really is a cushion.
Ms. Boykin?
Middle school.
Uh-huh.
I hear you.
Well, I noticed that I'm the only middle school principal.
I'm in here for middle school.
Okay, middle schools. And the
Um,
reason being that we were so glad when East was added to the elementary school
Yes,
because it built the foundation for us to expand our program in middle school and then send students to high school
Yes,
that
ma'am.
were proficient and advanced and experienced in East.
In August of last year, when this whole thing was 3-4 weeks old, and it was still just a collection of ideas, were there any schools, kind of like East, were there any schools brave enough to jump out there with a collection of ideas, with a track record of success in history, and with the fact that these are very common sense solutions? We're not asking you to blow up your school and start over. We're not asking you to dump your whole faculty into a room and beat them until they agree with you. Okay, we're taking small steps. 3 weeks in, we began the discussions. How do you expand out and how do you expand down? How do you take this into other courses? When we first began to work with the University of Arkansas and the group there that's helping us to develop these projects, the head of the Geospatial Sciences college, I guess it's a college, it's a department at least, he came to me and said, I want to write history stuff. I went, okay, that's great. Can we get this done first? Okay? As we are developing this, we are very much looking at that. I don't know if it's going to take 2 more years before we can get there. We've got to better understand how we have committed to these 6 courses in the next 3 years. We have the capacity, we have the relationships, and we are doing that. But as we are doing that, we are looking to expand horizontally and vertically, because we believe that this is a model, much like East, that can be very successful regardless of grade level. Probably not first and second grade. They do first and second grade so well, okay? We do such a good job first, second grade, and then something happens about fourth grade. I don't know what it is, but we got to fix it.
It's fifth.
It's fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Oh, then some of the ones I know are just advanced.
So I know that you need to contact Ms. Harriman's office if you are interested, but we just kind of want to know what we can look forward to. So I've got 2 sheets here. One says East Core. If you want to keep continuing conversation with East Core, that sheet. If you're interested in East and need Matt to contact you about an East program that you don't have yet, fill that out.